Hello, everyone. We're going to talk to you today about transformative cultural learning towards an integrative global education. I am one presenter. My name's Dr. Bronwyn Wade-Lewin. I'm a creative arts educator and STEAM educator from Macquarie University.
And I'm Kath McLaughlin. I'm currently Honorary Research Officer working in the field of reflective practice.
So Kath, would you like to introduce our project?
So today we're going to talk to you about a workshop that we've run, and we've run these consistently over the last few years, both nationally and internationally, as a way of disrupting traditional academic knowledge, which we see as being more transactional and transformative. What we're interested in doing is exploring how arts-based inquiry and experiential learning and using reflection can help facilitate more critical, creative and reflective learners and moving towards more transformative learning and teaching.
Thank you. So the arts-based inquiry framework came out of a PhD that I did in 2015. And we're particularly looking here at a socio-cultural approach where it's intercultural education is happening. Within that space, there is creativity knowledge, different artistic forms and practices, multiliteracies, intercultural communities, and reflective practice. The reflective practice is the new integration into this model. The students that we're hoping to affect in their creative dispositions, we're hoping to see more flexibility and fluidity, mindfulness, open-mindedness, be able to visualize, be more abstract in their thinking, create something more unique, be a risk taker, and avoidance of premature closure, which means that they'll stick with whatever they're doing for a longer period of time.
So from a theoretical point of view, we've integrated Palmer's idea of what it means to be integrative in terms of education. So from ontological, epistemological, and pedagogical aspects, thinking about learning as people's relationship to and independence and interdependence in the world and how they view it. So we're very interested in people embodied experience around how they actively engage with the wider social, environmental and cultural aspects. And we want to ensure that this happens in an environment that can encourage risk-taking and play, because we know that people learn best when they're having fun, and that it's important that people are supported and safe in able to do that so that imagination comes to the fore.
And we love what we do.
Yeah, yes, we do. We have fun as well.
So the context, it's we're actually working in this particular project with master's students who are in Sustainable Development Unit. They come from all over the world, these students. It's about engaging societies in sustainable development. We worked with Indigenous students from Australia and the staff. We actually asked them to work strongly with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Introduced Hawaiian fresco painting technique, which means that they needed to paint a fresco with ash, which represented a lot for people in the burning of Australia over the last couple of years. And we also brought in reflective practice,
which is a really important part of how they synthesize and understand what they have learned and how they are challenging their beliefs and views about what the world is.
Exactly. So the fresco making here was about exploring their learnt experiences through this new medium that most of them, all of them really, had never tried before. So we tried to scaffold their imagination, encouraging them to let go of any certainty that they had. And how we did that is we brought in Indigenous speakers who actually spoke of their connection to country and how that really meant a lot to them. And country for an Indigenous person in Australia means the sky, the earth and the sea below.
And it also involves very much the listening practice. So not just listening from external, but listening internally. So what are the senses and what's allowing to emerge through that process of settling and being still?
It's fantastic. Thank you.
So we created that space and we started off with a mindfulness activity, a breathing experience for people to remind them that continually it's about moving out of the cognitive space and into a more, as I was just saying, a connection to the senses. So what were they feeling? What were they hearing? What were they sensing? Which then would come through and emerge through the art practice.
Yeah. So we came from a theoretical base, and we're trying to bring in this spirit of play where the imagination and creativity are brought forward. We particularly did this through limiting certain elements, such as the colours. The colour scheme that I limited it to was the indigenous earth colours that you would find in Australia, like the ochres and the reds of the earth and blues of the ocean and black. So they really only had about 5 colours that they could work with. These colours are quite different to watercolors. That we had watered them down so they were like a watercolor, but they're actually quite a thick impasto technique, could be used as well. And so we made the plaster, and then they were able to use these colors to express their connections to land and to these big issues that they were trying to discover. Do you want to add any more here, Kath?
Yeah, I think part of what, and it'll become more evident in the next slide, is that it was connection to the other that was also very important. So not being, I mean, we don't live in an independent world, we live in a dependent world. So having other people in that space, being able to dialogue and talk about it, I think also comes through in how people were expressing themselves.
So we're now going to just show you a short video, we hope, of this student here, master's student, who was really very emotive in the way that she was expressing herself about connecting to the land. So life on land is what she looked at in Life Below Sea. So we'll just see if that's going to open.
It's a lot to do with the warming of the planet as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's like the sun's just really fierce and like it's affecting the sky and like there's a lot of burning that's happening. Yeah. That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think this is what more fresco, isn't it?
Yeah, so that short video was just an example of how the students were receiving the work that they had done. We now would like to show you some of the work that, that was produced by some of the other students. And I'll just look at the first one here, Save Marine Life and Save Green Spaces. It's really quite easy to see as the pollution's entering the ocean, how the ocean is becoming deeper and darker and destroying the marine ecosystem. Would you like to talk about the next one, Kat?
Yeah, so I think, again, the importance of reflection, allowing students the opportunity to then come back and really think deeply about what that meant for them, and then to be able to express it in a much broader way than we can usually articulate through the text alone. So again, some of the emotion that comes through for me is really the important aspect of, you know, the fierce sun and the way that they could then express that through a medium that wasn't just about talking. So I think the reflective component added to that expression really put a depth into it that spoke volumes to the students and to us.
Yes, particularly here in this one, Shadow Places. We often don't think about what's happening in our daily lives. I think this is a very expressive work here, and just a slow destruction. And do you want to talk about the next one here, Ken?
Yes, and I think too, seeing these two side by side is very much about some of it's shadow, but then the other is the stark realization of what is actually. So defining it much more distinctly about the death and with the red color and the black being so ominous in terms of everything being destroyed. So incredibly suggestive and provocative, and I think using their imagination in a great way to actually bring these way they're interpreting what they're thinking about in relation to their own context to the fore.
I particularly found this one about the Jaguar god interesting. Jaguar is a sacred being in Mexico, and how, you know, this is our deity. We can't destroy their life, you know.
Yeah, and I was really excited that they brought that idea of sacredness and that spiritual aspect that we often don't consider when we're thinking about our everyday life and how we go through it, and the intentions we use and what we pay attention to. So when we started this practice and talked about mindfulness, it was about trying to situate students in that space where they would continually come back in a mindful way to what they were exploring and discovering through this process.
Yes. And Black Summer, as you can see, the renewal, things are actually renewing, but, you know, how long can this go on for? So quite deep concepts and ideas expressed in quite beautiful ways. So some of the key learnings, we're able to use artistic mediums to explore ecological contexts, and they use their senses, as particularly working with new materials that they'd never used before. Many students hadn't experienced anything like this to connect their scientific concepts to. And you could see in the classroom afterwards how passionate they were about their ideas and this new experience that they had. They're able to discover about Australian Indigenous cultures and connect more to those ideas. And they also showed how they felt and responded to the influences and their intentions, which really showed us as researchers their transformative learning occurring.
And the excitement that they showed as a result of this, and how excited they were about the whole process, which when we came back with the students, they made very evident was part of what was so important about it for them.
So here, the key findings: arts-based and experiential learning facilitates development of critical and creative and reflective skills. And it does foster learning and teaching environments.
It does, but keeping in mind that that needs to be scaffolded. The environments need to be created. They don't just happen. So it's really important that there is a framework around how this is rolled out, and that it is done in a purposeful way so that the learnings can be explicated, so that students have that opportunity to really think about why they learned what they did and what it meant to them, so that they can put meaning around it.
And this is particularly important to us because in a higher education context, we're not seeing a lot of this happening at this stage.
No, and not seeing the space to allow it to happen, to allow it to emerge. It's very much that transactional of you take the knowledge that now you've got it, but it needs to be integrated and applied.
Yes. So from this experience, we then went to Earth Day. And we actually started forming partnerships, which is the SDG 17. So on Earth Day, the 22nd of April, Macquarie University Venture Cafe, which has 9 different cafes around the world, Adobe digital software company actually has a new program called Fresco, and they actually demonstrated how to use the new Fresco. So they had seen and explored the traditional fresco, the Hawaiian fresco, and now they're looking at the digital fresco. And we had Rotary there who actually also partnered with us to get these messages out further across the world. And it brought everyone together at this actual event that we held. So we shared and communicated together on this large scale, not only on a local scale, but on a large scale. And it's continually being shared now across the 9 different venture cafes around the world. This actual project has become the longest digital mural in the world. And next year, we're hoping to just keep continually adding new images to express the sustainable development goals through the arts. The process of this sharing was very exciting, and it did shift, as I said, through those different venture cafes. You can find a link to it at the bottom here. Please go and have a look at the video that we produced and see some more of our wonderful works.
And provoke your own understanding and ideas about what it might mean for you. So we wanted to thank you for listening to our presentation. And just to sum up, art is about interpreting life as we see it. And it's life as we see it is all about interpreting it from our different worldviews. So we want to open ourselves up to different expressions, to different opinions, to different perspectives. And in that way, we believe that we can transform our cultural learning towards a more integrative global education.
So thank you, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed our presentation.